Welcome to another podcast where we dive into a real life challenge, growth, and how we can shift our mindset to better navigate the ups and downs of life. I'm your host, Sarah Chemaissem, and today we'll be talking about something that impacts us all but can be tricky to identify: self sabotage. Something that often stems from survival strategies we used in the past to protect ourselves from pain or problems, but those strategies no longer serve us in our adult lives. We all have patterns we've developed to deal with difficult situations, whether it's defending ourselves when we feel attacked, avoiding conflict to keep the peace, or even shutting down in overwhelming moments. These strategies were created in childhood when they were very necessary for us to survive, but they often show up in our adult lives in ways that no longer help us. In fact, they might be holding us back. In today's episode, we're going to explore these survival strategies, how they impact our lives today, and most importantly, how we can start to recognize and change them. We'll talk about the fight, flight, freeze, and even the fawn responses, and how these amygdala-driven reactions still control us long after the threat is gone. So let's dig deep and let's get curious about what's happening in your mind, your body, and your relationships. Let's start with your amygdala. You know that little almond-shaped part of your brain that processes emotions, especially fear. It's your brain's danger detector, responsible for activating the fight, flight, freeze, or even fawn response. These are survival instincts, but built into us from early age to keep us safe from harm. So let's all do this together. If you're not driving, just get your hand and put it back of your neck further up, and you'll notice a bit of a little bump there. That's where your amygdala sits. But here's the catch. This amygdala doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a stressful situation. So whether you're facing a life or death situation or a stressful conversation at work, your brain reacts the same way. The problem is that unlike a coyote who runs from a threat and then grazes peacefully once it's safe, we humans often stay in that heightened state of stress even when the stress is long gone. Let's imagine this together for a moment. You're like a coyote. When it's under attack, it sprints away. Heart races, the adrenaline is pumping, running for its complete life. Once it's safe, it stops, shakes off the stress, and goes back to grazing. Now, imagine if the coyote kept running, even though the bear was no longer there and it was gone. You'd have a coyote that's just running in circles, wearing itself out, believing it's still under attack, even when it's not. That's what we do as human beings. Our survival instincts don't know when to stop, and we continue to run even when there's no bear chasing us. This constant stress wears us down, weakens our immune system, and also leaves us feeling extremely exhausted, anxious for some, and out of balance. The survival mechanisms that once kept us safe now keep us stuck in a cycle that no longer serves us. So get this right. Because you've done it over and over and over, it becomes like a doormat inside your brain. It's on autopilot because now your amygdala, of course, wants to make you feel good and happy. Obviously, it's not making you feel good or happy. It's just anxious and exhausted and out of balance. But the reason why it does that is because you kept it going for some time. So now it likes to do an autopilot. Give you another example of this. You're driving to get to a certain destination. You've been there so many times. But this particular day, for whatever reason, you arrived and you don't know how. You were almost like you were daydreaming. It's the same with the amygdala. The unconscious mind stabilizes something enough where it turns so real and it knows it so well that you don't realize that you are doing it. And this is as though that we are running from an invincible bear, even when it's not even there. But our brains keep thinking we're in danger, and that's where the sabotage actually begins for us. Let's dive into the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response for a moment. Let's see how they show up in our adult lives. First, we've got the fight response. You know those moments when you felt attacked and you immediately got defensive? Maybe your voice got louder, you got angrier, and then you started to argue, even when it's not life or death. That's the old fight response. triggered by your brain's desire to protect you. Then there is something called a flight response, when you actually avoid something because it feels too overwhelming. Maybe it's an important conversation, a task you don't want to face, or even a decision you've been putting off. This is your brain's way of saying, I need to get away from this. But in adulthood, running away only brings us more stress. So the freeze response shows up when you feel paralyzed or even stuck. You're unable to move forward or to even make any formal decisions. You might freeze up in the face of a challenge, unable to act, and as though you are trapped in the headlights. So the response was useful in a dangerous situation, maybe in your past or your childhood, but it doesn't serve us in the everyday life as we're adults. Finally, we have the one that not many people know of. It's the fawn response, which is all about people pleasing, trying to make others happy, even at your own inner expense. This is a response you developed when approval was tied to your value, but now it leaves you overcommitting and neglecting your own needs. So here's the good news. These survival responses were very useful at once, but they actually have no longer control over us. The first step is to become very aware. When you notice yourself reacting with anger, avoidance, even paralysis or people pleasing, I want you to take a moment to just reflect. Even right now, as you're listening to this, remember a time where you were under the fight, flight, freeze, or even fawn response and reflect on that situation. Was that your adult self responding? Or was that a child response to protect you? Is this response really necessary in that moment or even right now? Or am I stuck in an old pattern? I want you to really ponder on this, because a simple tool that I recommend, it begins, and it's always the basics, is deep breathing. The moment you notice your fight flight is kicking in, the moment you recognize that and have that heightened awareness, I'd like you to take a deep breath in. Hold it for a moment. Then just naturally, easily, and effortlessly exhale slowly. This helps your body recognize that it's safe to relax and stop running from this invincible bear. We've got another great tool, which is called mindful grounding. When you feel overwhelmed or even triggered, take a moment to feel your feet on the ground. Even if your shoes and socks are on, even if you're in the office, even if you're at home, it doesn't really matter. Just notice where your feet are. Focus on your breathing and the sensations of the floor beneath you. It helps bring you back to the present moment and pretty much away from that automatic survival mode, which was the invincible bear. So it's really about recognizing these old strategies and giving yourself permission to let go of the ones that no longer served you. So you don't have to keep running, and you don't have to keep freezing or pleasing. The key is just awareness. And from here, you have the power to shift. It sounds quite simple. And a lot of people, I find, are afraid of simplicity. They want something so complicated and take me here and bring me here to make it better. But no, it's the simple matters that make life so much easier. And we need to just go back to the old times in the scenarios where it's the simple things that really go a long way. So I want to ask you, or even ponder over this. The next time you find yourself reacting out of the old habits, I want you to really pause. I mean, extremely really pause. Breathe and ask yourself, is this still serving me? With what awareness can I shift my own response so I can start living in a place from calm, clarity, and choice? So let's say you're in the middle of a conversation with your partner and they say something that triggers you. Suddenly, you're ready to go into that full defensive mode. Your voice gets higher, your words come faster, and you're thinking, wait, why am I shouting about this dishwasher again? They might stare at you thinking you've lost your mind, but in that pause, you've just caught yourself in the act. This is a perfect moment to use a pattern interrupt, something that we do in NLP. A simple technique where you break the automatic cycle of reaction by consciously shifting your behavior. In this case, I want you to take a deep breath, maybe even laugh at yourself for how over the top you were about a minor issue and say, I'm sorry, I need a moment to cool down. This allows you to step back in, recollaborate, and avoid the escalating the situations. So your partner might think you're crazy for pausing and reflecting, but soon they'll start to appreciate this shift too, with time. And the pattern interrupts don't just work in relationships. Man, they're so cool. They're great for kids too. Imagine your child is throwing a tantrum over something small, like not getting their favorite snack. Instead of jumping in with a frustrated response, you could just pause, take a breath, and say something like, I see you're really upset about the snack. Let's take a deep breath together and we'll figure it out. By pausing and acknowledging their emotions, you're not only interrupting the pattern of chaos, but you're also teaching them how to calm themselves in the moments of stress. Another great example, if your child has already gone into a tantrum and they're going into their fight, flight, freeze response, you can just, if they don't want to sit with you and you don't want to give them that time out, start laughing about something and pointing somewhere else. You're also interrupting their pattern once again, bringing them in a different state. Psychologically speaking, pattern interrupts actually help reframe our own responses and others. So by intentionally stopping the old reaction and choosing a new one, we're telling our brain that this situation doesn't require the fight, flight response anymore. It creates that gap, a space for new, healthier responses. It helps you break free from the automatic cycle of stress. So, when you catch yourself in a reaction, laugh a little, pause, and consciously choose a new response. It might feel a little awkward at first, but soon it'll become your own habit and everyone will notice the change. It's that small step with this massive big impact. Once again, thank you for tuning in today, and I hope this episode helped you understand how these survival responses can show up in your life and actually gave you some tools to start shifting them. Remember, you don't have to keep running from the invincible bear anymore. Take care of yourself, and until next time, be kind to your mind and body. You are doing great. From my heart to yours, as always.